Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Sugijanto. I am a senior in the college majoring in history. I will be presenting today on my history thesis. This is a thesis that I wrote as part of the Department of History's honors program. My topic is on Asian American panethnic identities, specifically as those identities relate to the idea of the US nation state. So I have many questions and very few answers, but my thesis attempts to explore three general questions. The first being who counts as Asian American, and within that, sub-questions of according to whom and depending on what. I'll speak a little bit more on according to whom in my next slide, but as for depending on what, I'm interested in exploring the ways in which different historical circumstances and shifting political views shape the ways in which my study population conceived of Asian American panethnic identities. And as for where is Asian America, I'm interested in exploring if Asian American panethnicity is informed only by relationships and experiences that occur within the US nation state, both its conceptual and its physical boundaries, or if things that occur outside the US nation state also bear weight on Asian Americans' conceptions of self. And the final question I'm interested in is to what effect, and this is really what's motivating my desire to write this thesis. I'm interested in my thesis in exploring how the questions of who is Asian American and where Asian America is are both really important for understanding solidarities or lack thereof between various communities who fall under this umbrella term of Asian America. So my sources, I look at a specific cohort. I look at Asian university students and community organizers / activists. And even more specifically, I look at the periodicals that these folks produced. Some of my findings, so I start my thesis in 1968, which 1968 was when the term Asian America was created / coined by then UC Berkeley graduate student Yuji Ichioka. And at that point, the term conferred a novel organizing panethnic identity for Asians in America. So I start my thesis there and thinking about how events occurring, like I mentioned here, events occurring both within but also outside of the nation state during this time period were informing how Asian American students and organizers conceived of self. And that this kind of the getting outside of the nation state made possible the formation of a panethnic identity and also solidarities that were inclusive of some of the most vulnerable and disenfranchised members of society. Then I move on to chapter 2 in the 1980s and 1990s as a period of great demographic change within Asian America, given that the 1965 Hart-Celler Immigration Act allowed for the immigration of many Asian American and Asian professionals into the US. And I argue that during this time period, we see a confinement of Asian American student organizers' conceptions of Asian American panethnic identity to events occurring within the nation state. And then in chapter 3, when I talk about the late 1990s and early 2000s, I think about what are the implications of that confinement, particularly as they relate to the ongoing war on terror. So just in conclusion, ultimately my thesis explores, I think, the question of, is it possible to de-link community from the idea of the nation state? Because I think by binding Asian American subjects to a particular locality and by binding panethnic identities to the boundaries of the US nation state, that limits the potential for broader and transnational solidarities. To reflect a little bit, I am eternally grateful to my primary mentors, Professor Chakraborty and Professor Gaines, both part of the Department of History. They have guided my thinking and, more importantly, really pushed me to craft arguments that are reflective of what it is that my evidence is telling me. And finally, as someone who identifies as Asian American, I want to reflect a little bit on my experiences doing some student organizing within Asian American communities here at Georgetown University, particularly through Georgetown's Asia Pacific Islander Leadership Forum, or APIL. These experiences have heavily shaped how I approach this thesis, and I'm eternally grateful to everyone who has been a part of that collective experience. Thank you.